Hi all, Kyber1 here, and today we are doing another overview, this time the Universe Guide for Shatterzone. Okay, so as you can see, there is some pretty cool art there, and well, once again, this is an overview, this is not a review. And once again, that's due to the fact that I do not have the cards for this game, and the dice mechanics are chart based. And that's not to take anything away from what this game has. This game has its own separate universe and its own set of reality. Space horror, corporate influence. It reminds me a lot of Alien meets Dune, and it's very brutal. There's very adult elements, and there's some of the Dune influence right there shining through. And the Universe Guide really breaks down average NPCs, and it talks about how the military works and just historical references, money, currency, and you have some of the most oppressive sort of feeling I've seen in a game lately. And here's the fleet rank chart, and you have an excellent resource to build your own structure, really, off of what they provide. And once again, you have the Megacorps. And that in itself could connect you to further ideas of what cyberpunk could turn into in the future, what Shadowrun could have been in the future, or things of that nature. And you really have to appreciate the amount of freedom within this design. Species, you got your average human, and unfortunately it sprawls across pages. The one thing to call, it's one thing to call a two-headed, six-eyed critter an alien. It's another thing to call the whole species that when you're stranded on their homeworld. It's another thing to call the whole species that when you're stranded on their homeworld. There needs to be a comma right there to really break that up. I went to school for business management, and business communication was part of that. Commas are highly important, and so are semicolons, because that tells you how to break up a sentence and where to break up a sentence. Okay, and this kind of reminds me of Dark Angel, or whatever that show was in the early 2000s, late 90s. And then there's adventure hooks in here too. And if you're smart, you can use any adventure hook in a general sense in any sort of role-playing game. Let's get to this one. Okay. Barton Realm Adventure Hook. The player characters are probably mercenaries or unemployed adventurers of some kind who have found themselves on Barton Realm with no way off. So they're stranded. Okay, the adventurers are either mercenaries or unemployed adventurers who are stranded. Unfortunately, no one has approached them for employment, and their grace period is running out. Then they are approached by an unknown man. He chooses to remain anonymous, but offers them a life-saving job. Find the murderer of some dude. The characters face an unhealthy choice: take up residence in one of the shelters, or try to discover who ordered the killing of the guy. Or girl, whatever. Certainly a wealthy rival or vengeful entrepreneur. Either way, their prospects of survival look grim. So, this cost me $3. If you can find it for $5 or less, like, look at that art. That is super cool. You have a trike with a gun on the back. Like, that's just awesome. That kind of reminds me of what XP to Level 3 was talking about in the Avernus book. Boom. Look at that art. So good. And once again, there's plenty of adventure hooks in here. And there's a section on creating your own worlds and the planetary distance table. The Xeno sector. And Game Masters only. Like, I seriously don't think anybody's going to be running this game. If you do, please tell me. Because, and the reason why isn't that it's a bad game. The fact is that there's too many moving components, and the chart reference, it just feels highly unlikely. And that is the only problem. Because when you have all these moving parts that are overly specific, the likelihood of finding a group that's willing to try it and take it seriously becomes less and less. And there's a Xeno sector adventure outline here. I don't want to show you guys that, just in case you decide to find this yourself. But it's something, and I don't see why you really wouldn't be able to use it for other stuff. Chapter 8 is equipment, and you have combining armor, multiple suits, and it basically says you don't get any benefit from multiple suits at the same time. Yeah, but you have some relatively low quality art in here, but at least you get the corporation responsible for the weapons in there, and that's pretty cool. So that kind of reminds me of Shadowrun. And then there's a little section on jury rigging. That's cool. Alright, and then you have a section on cyberware and cyberpsychosis. Kind of an iconic image right there. And just, oh wow, look at that. I think this was based off of an actual model, because that is very detailed, and there's a lot of love given to the art in this book. There's a section on drugs, including overdoses, and adventure gear. It's a dark game with dark themes. Vehicle section, different, obviously, equipment and stuff. And then you get to the back here, and then there's the equipment charts. And, oh, I hope I didn't break the book. Yeah, glue binding is terrible. If you guys resort to glue binding, I would suggest having a free PDF included. Because look at that spine. That is awful. I heard it crack. I don't want this book destroyed. But that was an overview of the Universe Guide. And Kyber 1 out. Thanks for viewing.